Welcome back, everybody, for Triple T number 96. Talk time with TJ. 96 of these. Holy Smokehouse, Batman. And should be an interesting night. Happy Halloween to those of you that celebrate Halloween. I dressed up like a tall, skinny white boy. It was a stretch, I know. Speaking of that, tall, skinny white boy, that happens to be part of the name of my website, which is the tswbdomcom, the tall, skinny white boy.com. And I do offer a free 30-minute consultation. That's your chance to get a hold of me and chit chat and see if there's anything I can help you with. I do call myself a professional problem solver, which I always have to follow up with, no, I don't know everything, but I do have this unique ability to ask questions to help people find the solutions to the challenges that they are facing. What else? YouTubers. Hi, Mom. And for those of you on YouTube all the good stuff. Click the red button for subscribe and ring the bell and leave the comments and then comment on your comments and share the videos that you like the best with all the other people, and the ones that you don't like, don't watch. And what else we got? Let's see. For those of you that are regulars here, have your questions and topics ready for the second hour. If you're new to Triple T or watching for the first time on YouTube or watching a recording, standard format here that I've put together is the first hour. I've got 3 topics that I will cover. And the second hour, I open up to anybody that's on the call. Open mic, open platform, you ask your questions, bring your topics, and I let everybody else on the call answer first. And if there's any additional info I'd like to add, that's when I add my 2 cents, because I like to learn as well. And I usually start with, anybody got anything they'd like to share, some cool stuff from the last 7 days since we were here last? I know somebody got a new website up and running. Might want to talk about that.
Yes, indeed. Scholarly-changeworks.com. I had gotten the domain a while ago, and I have a friend in Australia who's a web designer, and she went and finally built the website for me, and it is amazing, if I do say so myself. I can say that because I wasn't the one who made it. So,
Well,
but it blows me away.
looking forward to checking it out. And for those of you on the call, he did put a hot link to it in the comments, so you'll be able to find that. For those that may have missed that that information, could you tell them what your website is one more time, please?
It is scholarly-changeworks.com. I'm going to enter it into the chat here again real quick.
Awesome. Cool. Anybody else got anything they want to share other than Halloween candy? Next week, we'll be working on weight loss program, getting us ready for the holidays. Although I did hear something interesting, Squirrel just, those of you that have been around Planet TJ for a while know that my squirrels have squirrels. I've got a whole community of squirrels out there that careful what questions you ask, because I will chase those squirrels in many directions. But somebody had posted that we're going into a holiday that gets us to eat a whole ton of sugar that we're not used to, followed by a holiday that gets us to eat a whole gluttony of food, including a whole lot of sugar that our body's not used to, followed by another holiday that gets us to eat a whole lot of stuff and a whole lot of sugar our body's not used to, closely followed by a holiday that talks us into drinking more than we normally should. And we blame getting sick over the holidays on the weather. Keep an eye on your diet. Just because it's there doesn't mean that you have to overly indulge or imbibe. But when you do, also keep track of ways that you can counter that with self-care, exercise, diet, and all the above. So coming from the tall, skinny white boy where people are like, you're so lucky, you'll get to eat whatever you want. Yeah, pay my food bill. But on the other hand, even on the days when I've been around and I've eaten too much sugar, I feel the sugar hangover the next day. Especially being I rarely eat sugar. I rarely drink sugar carbonated drinks. So there is that. And of course, what happens for New Year's? The resolution. Gonna go on a diet. And how many of those fail? Mainly because they call it a diet instead of figuring out a lifestyle change. A lifestyle change you can do for the rest of your life. Most diets don't last long enough, and they're usually radical enough to where it makes for that nice yo-yo effect. Lost the weight, it's back. Lost the weight, it's back. Lost the weight. So that's enough of that. That wasn't even one of my topics. See what happens when squirrels show up? So let's let the squirrels work on the topics of the night, which are chasing symptoms or the source. Are you talking or communicating? And then finishing up with sleep protocols. So we'll jump right into chasing symptoms of the source, symptoms or the source. And I've seen a lot of this where clients, all the above, they see the symptoms, they don't like the symptoms, they want to fix the symptoms, and they'll put a Band-Aid on or take a pill or something to mask the symptom. But rarely do they actually address the source of the issue. And then they wonder why they keep dealing with the symptoms for so long. Whereas when you finally go straight in and address the source of the issue, it's amazing how quickly everything clears up. The problem is, it's a lot of times, it's not as simple as it sounds. Some of the sources of the issues can go back quite a bit. And this applies to a lot of things. Being in the construction and maintenance industry for so many years, trying to deal with a roof leak You would be amazed at what water will do in a roof leak. You will see it coming in over on this side of the house, but when you actually get up in the attic during a rainstorm with a flashlight and track that thing, that's when you find out that the leak is actually over on this side of the house, on the upper part, and it drops down this board till it touches this board, then comes off this board, goes around this board, drops down, and then it follows all the way down to the other side of the house where it hits one board, travels to the back side, and ends up in the room ceiling on the entirely far side of the house. But most people would want to try and patch the roof right above where the leak shows inside the house. And that's where you have to take the time, invest the time to track and find the source. Just like with a client today that have the last couple of years, I'm going to say, have been a bit of a challenge. Actually, about the last 8 years. They also noticed that during that time, they have gained some major weight. And had a pretty big meltdown a couple of days ago when they looked in the mirror, tried to put on some clothes, and the clothes did not look flattering. Had an absolute meltdown and started yelling at themselves in the mirror. Well, when we went in, put her in trance, and we went in and did some research to figure out who was actually yelling at them, their 12-year-old was yelling at them. Because the 12-year-old couldn't understand how it happened until they were able to do some research and figure out that the extra weight was put on as a protection, as armor, as a way to get the outside world as far away from their heart as possible. And the 12-year-old still couldn't quite grasp it. Some of you on the call are still probably going, the what? Until I was able to have them pull up, I had them go into a protocol called the Hologram deck. If you've watched Star Wars at all, you know what the hologram deck would be. And, or Star Trek or something, one of those. If you watch the movies that start with star, somewhere in there there'll be a hologram deck, and they brought up an avatar of themselves. And I had them see the thin person inside of their body so they could see how much protective padding they had put on. And when I asked them what type of energy created the padding, fear, safety, and straight protection. And when I then I had I asked the 12-year-old, do you think the 11-year-old looks at you and thinks you made a couple of mistakes? Well, yeah. Have you learned anything since the time that you were 11? Yeah. Did you do the best you could at the time with the tools, the knowledge, the energy you had available to you? Yeah. Look at the you in 2023. They're doing the best they can with the tools, knowledge, energy they have available to them. And they need your help, not your criticism. And so they all agreed to work together and find viable solutions. And it was interesting, bringing up what are 3 viable solutions you can think of. And they said they had tried fasting, but it hasn't worked. So I had them go forward in time to forward 6 months, April of 24. Have you been able to make fasting work yet? No? Any idea why? No? Okay. What's another solution that you tried? A vegan diet. Did it work? Yeah. Did you enjoy it? Yeah. What do you like best about it? I learned how to make really good food. What's another one? Knowledge, research. I learned how to research. What did you find out when you researched? I learned how to exercise better. They were going to figure out ways to fix the source instead of attacking just the symptoms. And I know I went kind of deep dive on some of that stuff. Those of you that have been around Planet TJ for a while probably were able to keep up. But any ahas, epiphanies, questions on the stuff that Yes, Holly.
I mean, this has been a topic I've been pondering a lot the last week, so a million things are coming into my mind. But this is slightly different, but it's very similar. The concept's the same of symptoms versus source. For years and years, I was in absolute agony every time someone would take my blood for any reason. And I've had people tell me all sorts, oh, it's just because I'm a wuss. It's because, all of these labels that got put on me. And then fairly recently, I had someone finally take my blood. I was anticipating it was going to hurt. I thought it was going to hurt. And I barely felt it. And ultimately, I've had my blood taken 4 times since then. All 4 times were fine. I asked the phlebotomist what she was doing differently. And she said she had traced out my vein, and my vein went at a weird angle. And so what was happening is every other person wasn't taking that time, and they were jabbing the needle in at the wrong angle, and that's why it hurt.
Yep.
And so it's kind of that also, the pain was telling me something was wrong. Everybody wanted me to tackle the pain and get rid of the pain. But there really was something wrong, and once it was fixed, all the pain went away.
Yes. I can tell you firsthand, not all phlebotomists are equal. I've had some horrendous needed therapy to get over that. And then I've had other ones where I'm like, you're already done? Like, I was waiting for you to start, And before I met Dr. David, I admittedly was full on needle phobic because of a couple of very bad experiences when I was a kid. And then you meet like you say, a phlebotomist that knows what they're doing and does it correctly. And then all of a sudden you're like, that's how it can be? Makes you want to go back to the other ones and go, hey, back to class. And there's a lot of other things that I've talked about this subject quite a bit. My father went through treatment for alcohol when I was 12. And the treatment center that he went to, they do really good work. But knowing what I know now, they didn't reach the source of his challenges. They took away the Band-Aid. They took away the alcohol and said, you'll be fine. And that worked for a little bit until it didn't. And I know he went through, I wouldn't want to go what he went through in his childhood. But they didn't address that part. If they had, it may have went better. And so that's another one where, we look at things that people go through or what they are going through, and oftentimes all we see are the symptoms. And we want to attack the symptoms. You get some, I've got some clients with family dynamics where they don't understand why one of the kids gets away with so much and another one doesn't, without understanding the dynamics of non-confrontationalist and narcissists and all of those things. There's acquired narcissism. I had a good friend when I was growing up that went through that, and he went through an event, and after that event, he wasn't the same. Total narcissist, just like that. And so many people were frustrated with the final product, the symptoms, but they didn't see what caused it or understand the source. So again, I wish everybody, including myself, could get even better at being able to see through situations and be able to clearly see, is it a symptom or is it actually the source? And if it is a symptom, how close is it to the source? And do the people even recognize, A, they have a symptom, and B, how far separated are they from the source of the root cause of the issue? Lenora posted, interesting that it's called acquired narcissism, nicer way of saying it. Dr. David brought that up. There is a pretty traceable form of events that can create acquired narcissism. You can have somebody that pretty level-headed, pretty decent, but you look at some people like that, people that become very famous in a short period of time, people that become very rich in a short period of time, everything was, they were super cool until something happened. My buddy had a near death, a near fatal accident. And when it was shortly after his parents got divorced. And when that happened, the whole town and the school and the community, everything poured attention on him. And he got really addicted to the attention. Lenora posted, I try to take a step back and notice they built themselves this way because they didn't feel safe any other way. Sometimes. And sometimes I think it's like I pointed out with my buddy, it was the addiction of the attention. And when that attention wave hit, he got addicted to it, and then it subsided, and he thought he was still the show, all the above. And it made it really hard for a lot of his friends prior to that to hang around him, which made him a bit bitter and very narcissistic. So, any questions, input, comments to add to that? Or are we ready to move on to the next subject?
You want to read the comments for those who are on YouTube?
Oh, another one. I don't doubt that it definitely became hard to spend time with them. Yes, definitely. It's like, dude, if your head gets any bigger, you're gonna have to move into an airplane hangar because it'll be the only way you can get in and out of a building. And we're still buds. You know, we still chat, we still hang out, we still talk. But I can only handle that energy for short periods of time out of respect for myself. And I will ask you guys to do the same if you have somebody like that if you understand the source and they're not willing to work on the symptoms, and as such it causes them to almost be an energy vampire. They may not realize it, but like they say on the airplanes, when the mask drops down, put it on yourself first. Protect yourself. Any other comments before we move on? Well, this next topic, there she is. This next topic, I had a little epiphany just before we started. I was telling a funny story that kind of leads right into this. Believe it or not, a couple of years ago, I got an amazing phone call. It was awesome. I had won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes, $8.5 million. Can you believe it? I mean, they called me up. It was like, hey, you won the sweepstakes. I'm like, yeah, okay. All we need is all your information. I'm like, okay. So who signed me up? Well, that time I was a little busy, so I just hung up on them. Well, they decided to call me back the very next morning while I was laying in bed with my wife. I recognized the number, And so I said, hey, babe, this should be fun. She's like, what? I answered the call, put it on speakerphone. Congratulations, you've just won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes, $8.5 million. And I'm like, yeah, I need the money. He's like, cool. Let's start out with your bank account information so we can transfer you the money. And I said, oh, that's going to be a little problem because they won't let me have a bank account anymore after I got caught robbing the bank a little while ago. Oh, well, then just give me your address and we'll go from there. I said, well, I don't have an address anymore. I'm homeless. I'm living underneath a bridge in a cardboard box because they seized all my assets. Oh, well, if you just write this number down, you can call us up with the information and we can get that money to you right away. And I said, what information? Well, as soon as you open up a bank account. I said, but I can't have a bank account. I got caught robbing a bank. Well, write down this number and you can call us when you get that set up. I said, well, the Sharpie that I was writing on the cardboard for me to beg for money is dry, but, oh, wait a minute. I know. I've got a rock and I could scratch the number into the cement of the bridge. And then when I get my free phone, I can call you guys up. Would that be okay? Wait, what? I said, yeah, this number, this isn't my phone. This is just a phone that I found. But if you give me that number, I'll take this rock and I'll scratch it into the bridge. And when I get to move out of my cardboard box underneath this bridge, I'll give you guys a call because, I'll find somebody whose bank account I can borrow for a while. Click. And my wife is rolling. She's like, it took that long? And I said, babe, we weren't communicating. He was talking. How many times do we find people that are just talking? They just need to get their daily word usage out. And they don't even hear the answers you give them because they don't care about the answers you give them. In fact, when you answer, it's a little annoying because you're interrupting their ability to talk. So shut up. I've got words to say. Communication is a skill. And I believe it's a skill that not only can constantly be worked on, but needs to constantly be worked on. Even I, and I admittedly have, some hearing challenges that I'm hopefully going to get addressed soon because this is getting really old. But on the blessing side of my hearing challenges, it really makes me concentrate when somebody is talking to me. When I know they're talking to me, I know that I have to pay attention and utilize all of the things that I've learned about communication from Dr. David and Wayne Dyer and all of the above. Echo Talk, Three Magic Questions, Values and Criteria. Some of the most amazing forms of communication I have witnessed so far. If there's even better ones out there, Vin is the stuff that he teaches. Steve Voss for negotiations. You want to talk about being on point, listening to, or yes, thank you, Chris Voss, not Steve Voss, Chris Voss. Being on point, listening to the conversation inside of the words. And then taking it even further to micro expressions and all of the above. And then where do we go beyond that? Energy. Feeling people's energy. We used to be pretty good at it, especially when we were kids. When you wanted something, did you go straight out and ask mom or dad right away, or did you go, what kind of mood are we in here? Let's see, how's mom doing? How you doing, mom? I'm fine. Guess I'm gonna go see how dad's doing. How you doing, dad? I'm finer. Maybe we don't ask, or maybe we go butter up the easier slice of bread. But it, again, comes back to communicating versus talking. Who are some of the best teachers in school? Who were some of the worst teachers in school? I remember a couple of teachers that may have known their stuff, but their ability to communicate was not one of them. And then I know some other teachers that may not have been the top of the knowledge scale, but their ability to communicate and care allowed you to absorb way more of the little bit that they knew than you were able to absorb of the one that knew so much and had no idea how to communicate. Does that make sense? And so part of that is learning as many different styles of communication as possible. Metaphors, analogies, stories, expressions, vocal changes. Doesn't matter how much you know. If you are talking super monotone like a robot, pretty soon it doesn't matter how much you know, because everybody that's listening is going to check out and not hear a darn word after about a minute and a half anyway. And oh boy, you're exciting, and I'm going to have to get out of this room as quickly as possible because you don't even take a breath. Oh, geez, you suck. Who told the best bedtime stories? What was that?
I was going to say the ones that were engaged and enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, the ones that could actually tell the story.
When you were monotone, I wrote in Bueller.
Exactly. Any questions? How's it? Yes.
I had a few things that popped into my head. One of them is I think also because sometimes we could get down on ourselves and say, well, I'm not going to try because I suck at speaking, I suck at telling stories, whatever. But so two responses to that. One is the way you get better is practice. So everybody may suck at first. It's the people who care enough to try over and over and over again that get the practice, that get better. And then also another thing that popped into my head for that particular part is even just being willing to try is more than most people do. Most people either just refuse to try, or they think they're so good they don't need to try. So if you have the humility to just even try, I think it's similar to parenting. People are so worried they're going to screw up their kids. If you're willing to show up and try, you're doing better than like a huge percentage of people out there that are not willing to try.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that popped into my head for this is look at your own cognitive dissonance. This is something that's been coming up a lot, because cognitive dissonance is when you hear something that challenges your belief, and so you hear it. Instead, you choose not to hear it, rather than actually listening. And the reason yes, it does go with acquired narcissism. I've been gathering stories. So this goes to doctors, for instance. Now, I want to make it clear. I do believe diet, exercise plays an important role in weight. But I've been talking to overweight people who maybe they don't have the best diet. Maybe they do need to work on that. But it's not that they never do exercise. And these are all real stories. But one of the stories, for example, is there was a woman who was overweight, who was training for a marathon. And training for a marathon didn't make her lose the weight. And, I'm sure hormones and other stuff were going into this. She injured herself running a marathon. And she was worried. She wasn't sure if she sprained her ankle or broke her ankle. Went into the doctor, and the doctor refused to treat her because he wanted to focus on her weight and how she needed to exercise more. And she kept saying, I injured my leg running a marathon. And instead of saying, we're going to x-ray it, we're going to look at it, we're going to see if it's okay, he was convinced the reason her leg hurt was because she was overweight and refused to walk. And so he brought in an expert to talk to her about the importance of walking 10 minutes every day. And I could tell you probably hundreds of similar stories where the doctor isn't listening to, oh, I was running a marathon, maybe I don't need to learn how to walk 10 minutes a day. Yeah, maybe I need to work on my diet. That doesn't mean there's nothing here that needs something. But my immediate problem is I need you to x-ray my leg to see if I broke it. And he would refuse. The doctor refused to authorize the x-ray because of the weight. And he had this cognitive dissonance of, if you were running a marathon, you wouldn't be overweight. So I can't listen to you. I have to dismiss what you told me. I can't hear it. I can't listen to it because it destroys my beliefs. And like I said, I could tell you tons of stories like that. And I know I have my own cognitive dissonance. We all do, but cognitive dissonance will make it hard to listen to other people if you let it.
Yep. And when you combine that with ego or narcissism or so many other sources that create symptoms, that's the joy of dealing with humans in their natural environment. And the more you understand about it, the easier it is to not take it personally. I know. I've been dealing with humans in their natural environment for quite a while. And then I decided, as Dr. David pointed out, to just take it to the special kind of stupid level. But the what it does for me when I get to watch people break through their symptoms and their issues and move forward makes it worth it. That's why go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say I have a personal story to relate. Sometimes we develop interesting coping skills for different, reasons. Like I said, sometimes, my wife grew up very poor, and sometimes, most of the time there was no food in the house growing up when she woke up, and she learned from a very early age to take that morning hunger feeling, and she changed it So in the morning, she doesn't eat. If I ask her if she wants to go out to eat in the morning, she's like, no, I'm feeling a little nauseous. And she took that feeling that we interpret as hunger and she turned it into nausea. And she was 5'5", 105 on the day I married her. She's 5'5", 100 and, 105, 41 years later, because she had that, because she changed that feeling from hunger to nausea in her own mind. It was a way she coped with the fact that in her environment growing up, there was no food when she woke up. So she's willing to survive on coffee and cigarettes, from a very early age. And sometimes, like I said, again, and she's been skinny her whole life. Because of that, she, like I said, she'll eat kind of a regular lunch, and then she'll have as big a meal as I do at supper. But in the morning, and she passed that along to my son. I don't know how she did it, but he never eats anything in the morning. And, because of an environmental, situation, she learned to misinterpret that hunger feeling as nausea. And it's kept her skinny for 64 years. So sometimes we adapt to the environment.
Yep.
And like I said, and, she's, and sometimes, like I said, that feeling gets, you can change, a little kid came up with that, when she was little and there was no food, she just learned to misinterpret it as nausea. And, but that's how she coped with the environment growing up.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that when you look at the symptoms and go drill down to the source, it's amazing what kids will with to cope with situations that they're in.
Mm.
Anywhere from conception up to ages 5 to possibly 7 is where a good majority of challenging protocols are put on our hard drive.
And a lot of those beliefs, most of them are not rational.
Yeah, they don't have to be.
No, and they can't be because they don't have rational minds until age 6 or so, till the conscious mind starts to develop. So, again, it was just how she coped. And, so it's always, giving her that, again, that, she didn't have to try. She didn't have to diet. She just didn't feel like eating in the morning because she felt that feeling that we feel is hunger, and she feels it as nausea.
Yep.
So, and it's not rational, but it helped her stay skinny.
Yep. Right on. All right.
That's it.
We got 12 minutes left to jump into this next one, if we're okay with that. Next protocol, and I'm going to need help with you guys. That's why I saved it to last, so that we can, if we need to, we can run it into second hour, if that's okay with you, is sleep protocols. Friend of mine who is an amazing vet and does surgical repair on bad croppings on dogs and stuff like that. Well, her and her husband are in the process of acquiring and moving to a new house. Anybody that's done that knows that there's, new changes, little stress, then a little more stress, and then you got work and stress. And so she reached out to me and asked me if I had any resources or anything written down for what I work with clients on for sleep protocols. And I said, well, I actually haven't written my stuff down. I do classes, but I haven't written it down. And I couldn't remember if we had discussed sleep protocols on any other triple T, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to use that as a requested topic for the evening and deep dive into different types of sleep protocols. And I know that there are a ton of them out there. Kevin dropped off. He said he might come back. One is breathing techniques to get your body to relax, to focus. Some people meditate. I do myself. I tell you what, for years I had the biggest problem falling asleep. I could not shut my monkey mind off to save my butt. Now, my friend says she doesn't have any problems falling asleep, but now with all the stuff going on, she will wake up out of the blue 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and monkey brain is like, about time you woke up. Okay, we got to do this, we got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. And what about this? What if this happens? What are we going to do this? And then we got this, and then there's that at work, and then we got this thing at work, and then we got, and she can't get back to sleep. And she's been getting hit with this now pretty consistent for long enough. It's tiring her out. And I know the feeling, man. I've gone through some stuff, had some leg issues that kept me from getting any decent sleep. And one of the easiest ways to wear a person down, make sure they don't get enough sleep. SRUs bottom out, and your ability to deal with stress and stuff and humans in their natural environment aren't quite what they should be. One of the things I learned, if I get woke up in the middle of the night, or now that I'm not 18 anymore, found that sometimes I will wake up in the middle of the night, not by my monkey brain, but because my bladder's like, hey, need some attention here. Yep. And so you do that zombie walk to the bathroom, hoping like heck that you're not going to wake up. You just need to get your body to the bathroom to perform properly, to get back into the bed. No wake up, go back to sleep. That all sounds good on paper and in the thought process, but how many times have you gotten back to sleep and laid down, you're like, okay, back to sleep, and your monkey brain goes, hey, well, now that we're awake, no, we're not awake. No, what about this? No, we're not awake. If a millipede gets a Charlie horse, does it know which leg it's on? What? No, shut up. And so one of the things I came up with is I will start a little mantra of rest, restore, and sleep. Rest, restore, and sleep. Rest, restore, and sleep. And get my mind caught back onto that and track my breathing and try and do different types of breath work. That's why I was wishing Kevin was able to hang on here, because he knows his stuff when it comes to breath work. But we're close enough to the second hour, and I don't want to infringe on your guys' time a whole lot. Who else has some sleep protocols or advice for people in regards to waking up monkey brain and trying to get back to sleep? Lenora.
I got a whole bunch. I'm just going to pop them in the chat. The first one I like to do is give myself permission to go to sleep, and also thank my body for all that it's done. And I will put all the stuff of the have to's that I need to do's and focus and things that need to get done. I'll put them in a suitcase, and I'll then move the suitcase outside the room, kind of like if you were getting on the airline, like you could pick your luggage up when you're done with the flight. And I will also prep. So I know with like things like Wi-Fi and the other stimulations that are going on, setting myself up for success may seem like a lot of extra work, especially when I could fall asleep on a picket fence. But when it comes to nighttime, I do find, depending on how wired I am and where the moon is and all these other things that are going on, I do have to prep, and I will also give my mind something to focus on. So like when you said rest, restore, and sleep, I will have a go-to, what I refer to as a prayer, and it's not necessarily a Catholic prayer or anything like that, but I will give it something rhythmic to do, so that way it knows, catch here, and then go back to sleep. So
Awesome.
those are a variety of things.
Thank you. Before the squirrel runs off with this, one other thing that I've done is I'll look up, and I've got one of those alarm clocks that projects the time up on the ceiling in a red color. And I'll look at it and I'll go, okay, it's 4:10. Today is Tuesday. It's going to be an amazing day. And I get to sleep for 2 more hours. How cool is that? Now let's go back to sleep. Holly.
Okay, so I got a lot of things I could say on this topic. I'm someone who is probably almost a sleep expert because of how much I've had to deal with it. One thing I would say with sleep, the first thing I say is saying I have a sleep problem is similar to saying something like I'm sad. The number of explanations is a million. So, drilling down to what's my real problem is very helpful. In this particular case, I wouldn't say it's a sleep problem. It's more of a, as you put it, a monkey brain problem, which you can have all day long. It's just probably annoying you more at night, if that makes sense, because it's interfering with your sleep. But chances are it probably interfered with your ability to exercise, your ability to work, your ability to eat. Everything you're doing all day long is probably being impacted by this. You're just noticing it with the sleep more. So I'll focus specifically on that one to start. So one thing that is really good is, first of all, if I'm having my monkey brain happening, that's usually a sign to me that I have not exercised enough that day. Because if I am physically exhausted and I've got all my excess energy out, I'm just going to fall straight to sleep because my body's ready to go to sleep. If I haven't exercised and I have all this excess built up energy, then it can go into feeding my monkey brain. But another thing is training your brain when it's helpful and when it's not, rumination versus I'm actually thinking of solutions. And so one thing that you can do that's a really good thing to do just before you go to sleep is just have a pattern of, okay, it's not time to sleep yet. This is a day review. And what I'll do is I'll give myself a suggestion of, you're going to start when we woke up. And then I'm going to instruct my subconscious mind, say, I'm going to play through some of these things, but I want my subconscious mind to scan my whole day. And we're going to go at an even rate. So, we might have that thing that drove us crazy at 11 o'clock. I'm not going to just stay there. I'm going to scan through it. I'm going to gather all the data. And what I'm telling my subconscious mind is, and when we go to sleep, my unconscious mind is allowed to work on all of this stuff. While I'm going through this process, make sure I have a notebook next to me so that if any answers come up, I'm not worrying about remembering it. I can immediately write it down. And by the way, I recommend having that by where you sleep all night long. So that if you wake up in the middle of the night, because your subconscious mind came up with the answer, you could say, oh, thank you, mind, for waking me up, instead of, how dare you wake me up? Thank you. I will write it down. Okay, it's saved. You can afford to go back to sleep. We'll deal with it in more detail later. And so anyway, so I scan through the whole day, and then I give my mind instructions. And my subconscious mind will now analyze that scan for anything that it wants to go through, whether it's in the REM sleep or some other part of sleep. And when I wake up, I commit that I will have my notebook here to write down anything it's come up with during the night that it's ready to give to me in the morning. Another thing that really helps, of course, too, is making sure that throughout the day, you are giving yourself, so I think I got this on the Matthew Hussey retreat from Steve Hussey, that basically when you have the issues, you're giving yourself to think through them. And then you've got you're going to ask yourself, okay, do I have an answer now? Can I take any action now? And what you do is there's going to be some things the things that are going to keep you up all night are the things that you can't take action on now. And so what you do is you put in your calendar when you can take action and put it in it, give yourself an alarm on your phone. Or if it's something you don't know when it's going to be, maybe once a week, have a schedule to say, because, sometimes it's not a day that I can take action. Maybe it's once I get the answer to this, I can take action. So if, say, you applied for a job, once I know if I got the job or not, I can take action. So just put in your calendar, once a week, I will check and see, have I gotten the job? And so once you've done all that, because your mind knows, yes, there's time in my schedule to look at these things, I don't have to think about it all night. I don't have to think about it, because that's the key. Is it's not so much that it doesn't deserve a place in your schedule, in your mind. It does deserve a place, but it has its right place. And the best way to get it out of the wrong places is to give it a place where it knows it has its space and it will be honored, if that makes any sense.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Fran.
Oh, dear goodness, there's some fabulous stuff coming here. One of the things I used to like to do, I haven't done it so much lately, is if I really had insomnia problems, I thought, well, look, we've got this amazing span of time. Why not have a wonderful fantasy adventure? And I could make up the most amazing scenarios in my head, and kind of like lucid dreaming, but awake. And then at some point they would kind of merge into dreams and actually be a dream. Another protocol that I sometimes use is a counting meditation, where you count from 1 to 10 and then back down again. If you lose your place, you have to start at number 1. And you just continuously count up to 10 and back and 10 and back. And eventually it'll lull you into sleep. There's another one, which is a full body relaxation protocol, which I used during pregnancy and childbirth, where the flight and fight pose where you're all tensed up. And if you can imagine your body in the flight and fight pose, you go through from your toes through to the top of your head, all the muscles that are involved in that fight pose. You clench them as actually physically clench them, just that part of your body, relax for a moment, and then stretch them in the opposite direction. So you've got your clenched pose and you've got your stretched pose. And if you get to your mouth, you actually have to open your mouth wide and stick your tongue out when you're doing your relaxed phase. So you do the tense, neutral, stretch, and do that progressively up your body. Usually you won't get up to the top of your legs before you're asleep again. One of the other things that I like to do is actually distance healing, because I will usually fall asleep while I'm actually in the process. The only thing is I don't tend to have as restful a sleep when I fall asleep when I'm doing a healing process. And my last one is I put on a hypnosis tape, often my own voice, and so I've got a whole arsenal, but now I've got more. Now I've listened to you guys. Thank you. That's me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Fran. That's super cool. And Mark, you had put some stuff in the comment section. You want to cover those yourself, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, those were some suggestions, but metaphorically, I like to think of consciousness like a balloon. When you wake up in the morning, it's full. When to fall asleep at night, that balloon's got to be totally flat. You can't have any thoughts. So the techniques, like you said, to deal with the symptom, the thing that you want to do, which is to fall asleep, that balloon has got to be totally flat. So, and the techniques that you've mentioned, been some great suggestions. They have, their techniques to get rid of that, to make that balloon totally flat. Because if it's not flat, people used to say to me, like, when they're dealing with insomnia, there was just something and I couldn't stop thinking about it. and yeah, you can't stop thinking that. That means you can't go to sleep. That balloon is still not flat, and when we've been sleep deprived, that, you're not at your best when that balloon is not full, which is why first thing in the morning you can be creative, you can, because that, you can be analytical, you can problem solve so much better because that balloon is full when you wake up, if you've had enough sleep. If you haven't, well, it's a lot harder to focus. It's a lot harder to concentrate, because if you conceptualize it like the metaphor of a balloon, now you get to understand why, if you don't have enough sleep, that you're not going to be as sharp. Another technique that popped into my head is, when I go to bed, I figure my subconscious has got 8 hours, 7.5 hours to focus, and it has full access to my permanent memory. So I give them a task. I'm like, okay, I'm dealing with this client. I don't really know what I can do with them, but it has total access to everything I've ever read, every program, every podcast, everything. So I say, okay, when I wake up in the morning, I want to be able to look at my inbox, quotation fingers, and I want 3 solutions that I can use to address, the issues that this client presents with, and then I'll go to sleep, turn off the light, shut down the conscious mind. And when I wake up in the morning, there's usually 3 suggestions in the inbox. Okay. Because the subconscious is not rational, if he's having marital problems, well, if he just, buries his wife in the backyard, then there's all his problems are going, no, we can't use that one. That's not rational. But there's usually 1 or 2, really good suggestions accessing parts of my mind, my knowledge, my permanent memory that I probably wouldn't have been able to access in my conscious state. So I'll give it a chore. I'm like, yeah, when I wake up in the morning, I want 3 solutions in the inbox. Now, they're not always going to be rational, but there usually is 3 solutions. My subconscious, is able to do that. It's not doing anything else except keeping me breathing for 8 hours. So, give it a task to work on.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And that brought up another deal of a squirrel delivered, is allowing your conscious to know we're not dealing with this stuff until a set time. Keep track of this until it's 4 a.m. I'm glad you recorded this, but deliver it to me after coffee. We haven't had our coffee yet. Thanks for bringing it, but you're going to have to take it back outside of the bedroom. Go set it on the kitchen table or whatever. I'll pick it up when I wake up. The other one is questioning affirmations. We've covered this on a couple of different triple T's, because the subconscious loves questions. When you combine them with affirmations, before you go to bed, you can ask yourself, why am I able to sleep so well tonight? Why am I able to sleep all the way up until the alarm goes off? And preset that. Holly.
This is what I could probably go on and on about, but this is, I think, another thing too. I love everything that's been shared, by the way, is to remember that of everything we do, everything has hypnotic anchors in it, but sleep probably has the most hypnotic anchors of everything we do on a given day. If you look at, people get into specifics, but if you look at a lot of the advice around sleep, it's about either making sure you don't establish bad hypnotic anchors, or you're getting rid of those hypnotic anchors, and then establishing good ones. So you might say, oh, I've trained myself to go to sleep after, I brush my teeth, go to the bathroom, get dressed in my pajamas, and then lay down, turn off the light. All of those are hypnotic anchors that you're training yourself. I go to sleep after these. And so people will talk about, what do you use your bed for? If you sit there all day long reading, playing games, that sort of thing, you've gotten rid of anchors of my bed is where I sleep.
Yes.
And so, but another one would go, so if you are finding yourself, and it's unusual, you find yourself waking up, the word try is a very important one here. I'm trying to go to sleep. What do we all know about the word try? But actually, with those types of things that you're trying to do, if you actually try to do the opposite, it can really help. So if you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night and you know it's just I can go right back to sleep again, allow yourself to go right back to sleep again. But if you know this is hey, I'm solidly awake and I'm just trying to go to bed, do not, they say after, I don't know, you can establish that it's 5 minutes, or if you're not looking at a clock, you may not know how much time. But when you sense, hey, this is turning into I'm trying, and I'm also hooking up, I'm creating a new hypnotic anchor of I sit here and lay awake all night. That is when you want to get out of bed and establish, no, I'm awake right now, and I'm going to go, get a little bit of exercise in. I'm going to do some journaling. I'm going to go to the bathroom, whatever it is I need to do to say, I'm going to leave until I'm ready to come back and actually go to sleep. To make sure that you're not establishing some kind of new hypnotic anchor of my bed is the place where I try to go to bed and I just lay awake all night, if that makes any sense.
And a squirrel just delivered that this may be a good time to learn meditation. If your monkey brain is like, well, you gotta get up, fine, but I'm not playing your game. I'm going to get up to where I'm not going to disturb my partner. I'm going to go out somewhere and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to shut you down while you're keeping me awake. Like, shut up, meditation time. You asked for me to get out of bed. We're out of bed, but I'm not playing your game. I'm in charge. I will deal with you after coffee. Notice no coffee. Shut up. And meditate and find a comfortable position to meditate in, so that if you wake up in that position, and if you get that down enough, you can start to immediately go right into meditating in bed. Monkey brain tries it again 3 nights later, and you're like, fine, you know what? I'm not even going to get out of bed. I'm just going to roll over, flat on my back. Boom. Who else has got stuff? Man, we're on a roll. Did I talk too soon?
I guess I'll try just to tag on to what you just said and kind of everything too is, we talk about trying to go to sleep, but think of the last time you tried to stay awake because you needed to. And you can also do that as a hypnotic induction. And, imagine that time when you were trying so desperately to stay awake and you just couldn't, and you just kept trying to stay up, point to where you feel it. What color was it? Bring that alive for yourself.
Right. Okay, everybody snap out of it, out of the trance, come on back. Pretty soon we're going to hear snoring on the other
I'm
end.
definitely getting sleepy over here, which is hilarious.
Well, cool. I knew that I could count on you guys to help bring all sorts of solutions to this one. And we're in your guys' hour, so if you got any other topics or questions that you want to toss at the group, this is your time to do it. Thank you so much for playing all the way 13 minutes into your hour. Anybody got anything?
I have to go find all my questions now. Stand by.
Uh-huh.
Olinar is looking for that. I'm trying to make a list. I just used the word try. I shouldn't do that. I am
Just
of different of things that seem to be the causes of problems in our lives, or that hold us back from the things that we want to achieve, that sort of thing. And I've got a few of them, but I'm just kind of curious, what things in your change work have you discovered once you find the solution? What was the thing that needed to be changed in order to get the result, or to stop getting the result, depending on what you're working on, to help someone get where they want to be?
Okay, we're in our second hour, which means that all of the people on the call get to answer first. So who's got an answer for Miss Holly?
Can you say it once more, Holly?
Maybe if I get some examples, it will help too.
Okay.
So I figure out what at their basic root, what is the model of something that either holds us back from achieving something we want to achieve, or that keeps us doing something that we don't want to be doing that's unhealthy or toxic. So what kind of categories, models do those look at? So for instance, I have on there, one of my categories is problems that have been solved, but our subconscious mind hasn't figured out that it's solved yet, would be a category. Another one would be, this is just, watching Jordan Peterson, he talks about, we've got the things that were done to us cause trauma, maybe when we were younger or whatever, but also the things that we have done can cause us trauma as well. So I've got that down as another category. So those are a couple of the categories I've already got on my list, but does anybody have anything they'd like to add to that list?
I find that when I talk to the voices, so if I know that when there's a dialogue, gold, because they're giving me information and I need to find a way to communicate with that part, with that memory, with that voice, whatever label you want to give it. And there was even recently I was doing something and it was money related. And when I had said, show me the root cause, I found a younger self in such a dark place, but she wouldn't talk to anybody that I brought in, not a single one. And when I said, okay, who might you talk to? What ended up popping up, and I kid you not, guys, I have teddy bears from my crib, and they have been with me my entire life. This was the only thing that she would talk to. And that was how I was able to communicate safety to the subconscious of, we have it now. We can let it go and start to maneuver that way. I don't think it's ever been a complete pop where it's like, oh, in 3 seconds it's gone. Maybe it has, but it might have been a lighter thing. When they're deeper, it's usually a conversation that has to take place. Did that help at all? Did I understand the question properly?
That was very helpful.
Okay, good.
And if it helps, kind of throw in, if you want to give me your go-to techniques for solving problems too, that might help me extrapolate back to what the problem is that we're solving.
I don't know if somebody else was popping in. My go-to would be so for me, I notice my habits of, I don't want to feel something. I want to disconnect. I will notice a lot of distractibility. A big one for me is if I'm just randomly baking, like if I'm not going out with the intention, like I need to do this and this is going to be a quick thing. If I'm just looking in the kitchen for something to do, and you might as well paint my cabinets red, because it is a massive red flag for me of, you don't want to feel something, you have to work on something, and you're really resisting it. And I've only learned that over time of learning, hey, I was fine last week. What's going on this week? Why is this happening? And my go-tos would be, where am I feeling it in my body? And I just start talking. And I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel this. And as I start talking, it will naturally come up to the surface.
Hi, am I on?
Yep.
Again, people want to come in and they want to talk about their problems, and I stop them right away. I got to get them to reframe. They're not problems. People hate problems. They want to take those problems and stick them in a drawer and not think about them. So I get them to reframe everything that they conceptualize as a problem as a challenge. TJ's been using that word a lot. When you get rid of that word from your lexicon, like I said, people love challenges. It's just, how much energy, effort, and resources am I going to devote to overcome? And and it's fun to overcome a challenge. So the subconscious, which just wants to play and have fun, it'll put all the energy it needs to into that to overcome that challenge. So You know, and I tell people, you know, you've never made a mistake in your life, which they kind of look at me. I'm like, no, you've had life lessons. So I start off the treatment, you know, very early in the treatment and say, no, you don't have problems, which sometimes, you know, well, if I don't have problems, what the hell am I doing here? But you have challenges in your life. You have relationship challenge. You have career challenges. You have, you know, and how much energy, effort, and resources are you going to put, you know, prioritize, and, you know, which challenge do you want to work on, you know, first, and then, you know, and how much energy, effort, and resources are you going to put to overcoming that challenge, you know, and like I say, the subconscious, you know, again, seeing that all it wants to do is go play and have fun, it becomes a good game to overcome your challenges and feel good about every challenge that you overcome, rather than these things that I don't even know what that word is because I deleted it a long time ago. Problems, you know, they don't have mental health problems. They have mental health challenges. They don't have, you know, anything you want to conceptualize can be reconceptualized as a problem. You can conceptualize it as a challenge, and you know, and like I said, when you get the whole mind involved in overcoming the challenge, you know, that you know, like I said, a lot of the you know, lot of the resistance disappears. So anyhow, and I forget where I learned it. It might have been Dr. David, but somewhere along the way, you know, I got rid of that word from my dictionary. Okay, I don't even know what that word means anymore because I don't have any problems. All I have is challenges. You know,
Yep.
so you know, I don't know if that was Dr. David or someone else, but you know, and that's one of the first things I do. You know, people want to come in and they want to talk about their problems. I'm like, I don't know what that word means. You know, so and I get them to reconceptualize, to reformat, you know, reframe those as challenges, and all the blocks of resistance fade away because, you know, and I don't talk about change work because people resist change. Okay. You know, because they're not sure they're going to be them on the other side of this thing called change. So they resist it because they're not sure they're going to be them on the other side of this thing called change. So I never talk about doing change work. I always talk about helping people evolve. You know, they come in, they learn a coping skill, and then they become a little bit bigger. And every time they come in incrementally, they become bigger and they become more. So I don't talk about doing change work. I talk about helping people evolve and become more. And they've just become more and more. And I think it was Dr. David. You can't yeah, it is Dr. David. You can't out evolve your lifespan. So you're always evolving, always becoming more. Even tonight, I've become a little bit more. Okay. Listening to, you know, people, listen to TJ, listen to you guys. Like I said, I've become incrementally more. So, you know, so I talk about, you know, going on a personal journey of evolution because I'm not the same guy I was a year ago or the year before that. You know, I've
Or
been
even
evolving,
yesterday.
or even yesterday,
Yes.
because tonight I became a tiny bit more, and it continues. Thank you, Lenore. But that's what I do. I ask them to join me on a journey of personal evolution, you know, because I'm evolving, you know, and people don't resist evolution because, of course, the natural opposite of evolution is extinction, and nobody wants to become extinct. So we have an evolutionary drive to evolve, taps into that, you know, that unconscious, that reptile brain, you know, wants to survive. So hey, I got to evolve to survive. Okay, I'm in. So
That had one of my squirrels bring in the reminder of that's why nothing means anything until you give it a label. So be careful what labels you give things. Too often people will grab the very first label that they can slap on it and leave it there and then wonder why they're having issues. Lenora, you had your hand up?
I love that Mark was talking about evolution, and yes, watching the labels. Oh my, watching the labels. I love to label stuff, and TJ has ever so reminded me, watch your labels, and nothing means anything. What I wanted to, I added, I love that you pointed out that you go from that it becomes a challenge and that it's something that people can overcome. And one thing that I heard, so I was recently at the Mid-America Hypnosis Conference, and one person had shared that it's an issue. So it's even smaller than a problem, and changing the wording of how they're feeling about it and massaging it. It kind of feels like massaging words and taking their communication and keep modeling it and shifting it and helping them reframe it. Really feels like it goes through massage. Another thing that, especially when you talked about evolution, so there are times where people will label reparenting or inner child work or whatever label you want to give it. And Kaz Riley mentioned that she shared that she calls it younger self, because technically 5 minutes ago you were younger. So if an issue comes up and you happen to be in your 30s or something, it's not necessarily a child or an inner child. It is a younger version of yourself. And I really thought that was powerful, because when she said, oh, 5 minutes ago you were younger, I couldn't really argue with that. So that was a nice one. So yeah, just wanted to add that in.
Yay!
Absolutely. That was very good. No.
Also,
Again,
like,
it's all about becoming, you know, who are you becoming? And are you going to take control of the machine just long enough to install some really great empowering beliefs? And, you know, I usually knock people off of autopilot with a lot of my stuff just long enough so that they can install some really great stuff inside. And then, you know, because the autopilot will click back on, but if you've changed, you know, how you frame things, if you've installed empowering beliefs, you know, the subconscious, you know, again, like one young lady, she was traveling and she started to get anxious, and I had done a couple of hypnosis sessions with her. And I told her to take my voice deep inside, hear it murmuring these powerful suggestions, you know, that she's strong and feminine, et cetera, et cetera. But when she got on the plane, she started to feel anxious, you know, and she closed her eyes and she could hear my voice murmuring, and just the sound of my voice made her feel safe and made her feel comfortable, and all her anxiety went away. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't hear any of the words. All you heard was all you could hear was my voice murmuring. I'm like, okay, well, we got halfway there. You weren't hearing the empowering things I was saying, but even the sound of my voice made her feel safe and comfortable. And she was able to change her state just by hearing the sound of my voice and murmuring in the back of her head. I'm like, okay, we got a little bit more work to do, but whatever. But
Did you get the outcome you wanted, though?
Yeah, she was able to, like I said, it wasn't shit. Again, like I said, people who have a fear of flying had never flown, you know, and it's you know, it's what they build up in their mind, and you know, and you know, you, like I said, you can use a lot of technique to help them pass that. But you know, most people that are afraid of flying have never been on a plane. You know, you can, you know, they used to have somebody did a program where they had them go to the airport, and then a couple of days later they got on the plane, they got off, you know, they sat in the seats, and they sat, and then following, you know, a couple of days later they sat in the seats and did a nice relaxation thing, so they felt safe and comfortable in the plane. And then they had a thing where they took the plane up and circled around the airport and landed. So they systematically desensitized them to something that they had never done, but they had this irrational fear of. So like I said, it's just, you know, again, I use a lot of behavioral technique. I use a lot of hypnotic technique. I use a lot of, you know, a lot of therapeutic technique from different disciplines. I don't hold to one. Somebody asked me what my therapeutic, you know, what kind of therapy I do. I say I do anything that effing works.
Yes, 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 yes.
I'll use anything, okay?
Yep.
And everything.
Anytime, anywhere, for any reason.
Absolutely, you know, and you know, that's kind of how I roll, basically. Is you know, but we're you know, again, we're all practitioners of an art. Like I said, it is really an art. There's knowledge, but there's also people that are drawn to, you know, they, like I said, to you know, there are technicians that can do hypnosis, and then there are virtuosos, you know, and you know, and you know, I hope to be a virtuoso one day. So I'm still learning. I'm still evolving towards that goal.
Same here.
You know, so I just don't want to play the notes.
Out of curiosity, Mark, did you hear? Were you on the call when I talked about uh, helping a couple of passengers on planes that were not comfortable at all with flying, but they had to anyway?
Yeah, I do recall you. Yeah, I do remember. I was on the call when you talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, sometimes you just have to talk to people, and like I said,
Yep.
and again, my buddy John Masters, he doesn't really do hypnosis or therapy anymore. He just talks to people, and you know, they get better. And like I said, as you get more evolved in the art, you need less technique, you need less tools until really all you need is your voice to just talk to people.
Yep.
And John's at that level. I'm not at that. I can't fix people just by talking to them. I still am leaning on technique and tools. Okay. Maybe this time at Hypnothoughts, I'll level up, because every time I go there, I seem to level up, and so maybe
That becoming part.
yeah, that becoming. So, and every time I go there, like I said, I come home a lot bigger, so a lot more. So.
There was something in that, Mark, that popped in, and I just wanted to I wanted to share it with the group. There, especially when it comes to receiving a compliment and receiving something from somebody, there was a very long time where it was very difficult to receive a compliment or to receive certain things. And I literally would have a firewall of somebody coming up, or my younger self, whatever you want to label it, it would hit a firewall, and it would give it literal physical response of, you're lying. I don't believe you. And it would quite literally push it away. And I think there's something to be said about truly working to practice the art of receiving from not necessarily like everybody, but truly practice and building that rapport and letting the people that you do trust, the people that are in your kingdom and the people that do sit at your table, really practicing receiving what they're saying and letting it into your heart and letting it in and resolving that firewall that was there. And I just want to put that out there in case anybody has any difficulty receiving a compliment. It is wild to have realized it and then to really experience having a friendship or having a relationship like that, where you can actually take it and it doesn't give you almost like a shock to your system.
It's a gift,
It is a gift.
And it's like love is a gift. There's a movie out there called What Love Is, and at the end, that's the message, is that love is a gift. You give it to somebody else. If you get it's like giving somebody a birthday present, and if you get anything back on your birthday, I mean, it's a plus, but but that, like I said, and that's kind of, in a small way what we're doing here. We're giving each other, different perspective, different viewpoints, and it's a gift you're giving to the people in the chat, the people that are listening, people that are participating. And TJ has set this up so that we're giving and receiving gifts, and and like I said, and that movie, I recommend it to a lot of people, what love is. And because at the end, they say, yeah, love is a gift, and you give it to another person. And if you get anything back, that's a bonus. But it is the act of giving and then the act of receiving, it's a bonus. It's when someone can give you that love, that's really a gift, like I said. And when you, and when you overcome that deservingness issue, challenge, that's a wonderful thing. Congratulations.
And one of my squirrels delivered this. Those gifts can be in many different forms. And sometimes the gift can be in blunt honesty that actually hurts at first. That gift where you're like, ow, really? That was a mean thing to say. But I've got a quick little story about John Masters. Cool guy. In fact, Elijah, hey Elijah, I'm glad you posted in there that John Masters is a cool guy, extremely generous and natural healer. But
He's a savant.
Dr. David allowed me, had me come up and teach something. No pre-warning, no nothing. Like, Ann, hey, TJ, come up here and teach on this. And I'm like, oh, hi. And I thought I was all tough stuff and got up there and did my best. And afterwards, John Masters said, you're going to have to work on that because that kind of sucked. And I was like, ooh, maybe you could have delivered that a little easier, but what he did was made me go back and watch the recording because I record everything. And I had to admit, when I watched it, I was like, yeah, that was not polished. You were not ready, and that sucked. All right, John, thank you. Because it gave me the insight to go back and work on my ability to present and communicate and teach. Because I always wanted to, well, Mom, kudos to my mom out there who told me from the time that I was young that I should be a teacher, but I didn't quite understand in what fashion or form she meant. And when I finally did, then my goal was to be able to teach and help people and realized I've been wanting to teach people my entire life. I just didn't want to be a teacher. And all I could think of was elementary, high school, whatever. And I was like, you don't want me to be an elementary or a middle school or high school teacher because some of those kids, the way they talk back, I would have probably gotten in trouble. Especially nowadays. So this is why I teach with adults. Want to learn. Yeah.
John's an adept, okay? Him and Bernie are like way up there. What I aspire to, but John can be a little rough. Again, he comes from a good place, but he'll reach in, grab your soul, pull it out, brush away all the demons, and then shove it back in. That's John.
Yes,
that's kind of what he does at his level. That's again, but it's successful. Like I said, he does. But yeah, he could be a little rough that way.
And then look at you like you're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks. I think he's the one who taught me about the energy healing, the Bankston method, because I had a cold when I was going to I think it was Identity by Design. And I was coughing. He says, "You want to get rid of that?" I was like, "Sure." So he said, "Go get me a cup of water." So I did. And then he put the energy in it. He goes, then he took out the pendulum to see if it was charged. And then he was like, "Okay, take small sips of that. And by the time the morning's over, all your symptoms will disappear." And don't you know, they disappeared. So that got me interested in energy healing. And
pretty good suggestion.
Yeah.
By the time morning's here, it's a pretty good suggestion.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, again, I talk to John pretty often. Him and Bernie. I don't talk to Bernie as much, but I consider them adepts. I'm only a low-level wizard. Just to because I still have I have that underlying belief that I don't want to mess with, that I don't know enough, so it keeps me hungry.
Well, the next time you talk to John, tell him that I said hi and that he became a good topic. Speaking of topics, we've got 20 minis left. So do we have any other questions?
Wait, what?
Yes, Lenora.
There's one thing that I wanted to add, especially I'm going to go from what Mark said. So when you feel like you, and I'm completely in the ball game, when you're like, I need to know more, I want to know more. I recently came across a very archived video, and our friend, Dr. David Snyder, what you can't see is that I have like a full wall of Post-its and quotes over here. And one of them that he said was, in this business, it's not about how much you know, it's what you can do with what you have.
That's
and I
right.
thought that was really strong.
Nice. That's very powerful.
And I've met
TJ, you wanting another topic? You had mentioned Wayne Dyer, okay, and again, Bernie does this connecting to source. Again, and Dyer was always talking about connecting to source. Can we go down that rabbit hole a little bit? I've developed some technique to modeled on Bernie to do an energy transfer with someone, because he was doing it at the bowling alley, and I experienced it, and that night I was, we were on the town, we were like the super friends. We were using we smurfed an entire room out of people in a very busy club. There were like 4 different rooms, and we smurfed. There was 4 of us, and I think it stacked, and we smurfed the entire room until everybody left except one kid who was crying in the corner. But yeah, that
The energy was strong with him.
Right. But well, I ended up, again, I was sleep deprived when I woke up that morning, and I had to be in class. And believe it or not, like I said, some part of my brain heard the largest, the strongest, the loudest voice I've ever heard, and the softest at the same time. And he said what Bernie was saying, just take what you need. So I just stuck out my hand lying in bed, and I connected what I felt was directly to source. Okay. And just was absolutely bubbling with energy for the rest of the day. It was almost felt like if you took that level, it was like a fire hose of energy. And I felt like if I connect, I do it every once in a while when I need to, power up, but I felt that connection directly to source. And I said, and I was, like I said, I had all kinds of energy for the rest of the day on about 4 hours sleep. So because I was connecting directly to source rather than through someone. Just a story, like I said, but
great story.
Thank you. But I was able to correct directly to source, and I wanted to know, again, what TJ's, Wayne Dyer's, talking about connecting to source, getting an uncorrupted connection to source. So I want to pick his brain about that.
Well, I'll throw a couple things in, and I know there's a lot of other people on here that have information on that as well. One of the things that I liked about Wayne Dyer is he let you know that there are a lot of names for source. Some call it God, some call him all the above, and they're all right. It's what you identify as source. I've been accused of doing witchcraft because of this stuff, and I'm like, it's whatever you want to call it. Your maker, your everybody has a God. If that's your source of energy, you can either back to nothing means anything till you give it a label. Source doesn't care a whole lot what you call it. It will always be there. And when you start to identify what is available to you, just like when I talk to people that are dealing with self-worth issues or money issues or manifesting challenges and all the above, like, well, when you come to source, and you have this little cap, and you're like, could I have a bit of water? Just, could I have some water? And source is like, you mean out of these 7 oceans that we have here? Yeah. Yeah. Ask. Be the person that is worthy of holding this, and you can have access to the oceans.
That's awesome. That's
But
two.
first you have to ask. You have to become the person that it's not about being worthy. Oh, I've done my penance and I've been a good person and I haven't said mean things for 3 minutes now. And all the above, it's, do you love yourself? Are you working on yourself? Are you using good intention? Are things of this nature? And we can come up with a whole list of things that, you know, we think can be qualifiers.
We also need to be willing to accept, not just ask, because the acceptance is bigger than the asking.
Yes.
It's more difficult. And when you're presented with these 7 oceans, holy moly, what am I going to do with it?
Yes. But that's all part of, like, that's why listening to Wayne Dyer all the time, you know, he studied so many different religions and ideologies and things of that nature, and to try to convey ideas to people without spending, you know, this time on this source and energy and the power of love and the different frequencies and things that, you know, for those that have never experienced or thought of any of this stuff, but once you get enough exposure to it, it is kind of like the fog starts to dissipate and you're like, oh, look, water. And then the water dissipates and you're like, oh, look, a pond. And then more fog and you're like, oh, a lake. Oh, and ocean. Oh, now I'm a little farther up. Many oceans. Holy cow, I just was looking for a little cupful, but okay. And once you know, there's no going back.
Mm.
I think that's the coolest part, especially for, you know, the best part I know, one of the cool parts that I know is the people on this call have a level of knowing. It's the people that we run into that look at us and go, source, energy. Oh yeah, I mumbo jumbo, whatever. Until they need something. That's why it cracks me up.
Sorry, I thought I was muted.
I was just going to say, when Dr. David said people come to us because they can't find witch doctor in the yellow pages.
And source is an experiential thing that you can't explain it. You have to experience it.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact,
send
if
out
I
your
had to
intent.
explain it to you, you wouldn't understand.
You send out your intent, and it doesn't understand negativity. It can extinguish galaxies with a snap of its fingers, that it doesn't want anything. We're temporal beings, so there are things that we want. So we send out our intention, you know, and if it's pure, it will manifest. and we used to call that prayer in, Catholic grammar school, but,
And believing that it will be so.
Yes.
mm-hmm.
Which is why when I have clients who are working on their 3 journals that I have them work on for their person, their tribe, and their income sources, I'm getting feedback of, like, one of my clients is married and having some challenges. And when I said, I want you to do a journal of your person, it's not that you're getting divorced and you're finding another person. It's just, who is your person? And they said they've been this close to accusing their partner of finding their journal and reading it to change. But they know that they've got it in a place where their partner wouldn't find it. And yet, when they write it down with intention, and part of the exercise is when you get that journal, you also look at yourself. I got this from Darren Hardy, who wanted to find a wife. So he wrote down everything his wife would be and then read the list and went, who would my wife be attracted to? Oh, I have a few things to work on myself. And as they were working on themselves, their partner changed in front of their eyes. And that's when they were like, did you? Or maybe what Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you
It's on my website.
Huh?
The first thing people see when they look up my website on psychologytoday.org is, when you change the way you look at something, everything you look at changes.
Yes. And at first, people will hear that or read that and go, well, that's just a play on words. But once you experience it just a little, all of a sudden you're like, ooh.
See, the funny thing is, it's a play on words if that's what you want it to be. But if you look at it differently, maybe it's not a play on words. So it'll work even within itself. Because you change the way you look at it, suddenly it will mean something different.
Yeah. What a beautiful play on words on a play on words.
And Elijah, you are so cool to be so alert at stupid o'clock in London.
Well, do you know what? I realize now, because you said you had 20 minutes left, and I was like, no, it's an hour and 20, but we put our clocks back and you haven't. So I missed the first bit. I was late.
The first
yeah.
bit.
I thought I was like 20 minutes late. Turns out I was like an hour and 20 minutes late. So apologies for that.
It's good to see your face regardless, my friend, especially at Dark 100 in London. And then we got the beautiful Miss Fran, who's up at the crack of dawn to join us from Aussie-land. So I feel honored and blessed, and all the. By the way, where are you at, Mark?
I'm in New England.
You're in New England?
Yeah, just south of Boston.
Ah.
So my practice is in Plymouth, Mass, America's hometown. And I'll talk to people when I'm on vacation. I've talked to people from all over the world, and they're like, where do you have your office? And I tell them, well, this couple from the Netherlands are like, wow, if we lived in New England, we would come see you. I just, because I don't, I'm always authentic. I'm always talking from the heart. Again, I start talking to people and I start, riffing on my stuff, and, again, they, when they see the passion with which I deliver it, like I said, they like immediately, want to come see me, and and these are
Right.
people from other parts of the world. There's, this one fellow down in Jamaica at a cigar store. I kept talking to him about really his issues, challenges with his family, and I was there for a destination wedding, and I had to get. The wedding was starting. He's like, no, 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 don't leave, don't leave. He comes out of the back with another Cuban. No, no, you stay. You talk to him. And I'm like, he kept me there for like almost 2 hours, and he kept feeding me Cuban cigars. So I was like, all right, I'll stay. But what you said about journaling, I'm trying to remember the name of the guy. God, he's famous. He does the seminars. Live each life with passion. Every day with passion. He does seminars. He charges like $10,000, for a weekend. And I can't remember his name, but he tells a story of when he was on a train ride from Vladivostok to Moscow. He didn't speak Russian, and he got a couple of journals, and in one he filled it with what he wanted what he thought was the perfect woman. Everything, where she came from, how many kids they were going to have.
Yep.
And he found her and married her. And then he had the other journal, and he wanted, he's got plenty of books out there. The name's just not coming. But he filled that journal with what he wanted his ideal life to be. And he filled both notebooks by the time he got from Vladivostok and he now has that life, and he does, these seminars, and he makes a ton of money. Oh, name almost, it flashed through my brain. Tony Robbins. Thank you.
Yes, Tony Robbins.
I always thank my subconscious.
Yeah.
When the subconscious, you can't think of something, and then suddenly the thing pops in, because he has access to my total memory. So when that name that you're trying to remember just pops in, I always thank him because the little guy, like I said, I've made a good alliance with him, and I get to go play therapist every day and help people, and he loves doing that. So, Tony Robbins, he filled both notebooks, and he now lives that life where he lives out in Hawaii and all this stuff in his life. And he filled the other one with the perfect mate, how many kids they were going to have, what she looked like, where she went to college, and he found that woman and married him.
Yeah.
So that when you write this stuff down, it can, it will manifest in some way, shape, or form in your life.
Elijah.
So
I hate to be a downer, but they did get divorced.
I know, I heard that.
Now he's married to a different woman now. But aside from that, there's also like, it kind of reminds me of like, the Jim Carrey story where Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $10 million and put it in his wallet. He dated it in the future. And it was a check for $10 million to cash that he signed, and he used to keep it in his wallet, and it was like, it get crumpled up over, I don't know how many years he kept it, a year, 2 years, he kept it in there. And just before the date on the check, the forward future date that he'd written on the check came, he got given the co-lead role in Dumb and Dumber and was paid $10 million for that role. Mm-hmm. And he was able to go on the date of the check and go to the bank and actually cash $10 million. And that was it's like one of the, like, whoa, what a manifestation story. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Linda, quick before we're out of time.
I missed the discussion about sleeping.
Oh.
This probably won't work for people who sleep jointly, but when I can't sleep, I will get my computer and put on a YouTube video with a discussion that I like, and I will lay in bed and I will listen to it, and I will be asleep almost immediately. And I didn't tell you earlier because I was asleep earlier. My collie climbed up in my lap and I was trapped. I finally got her off my lap and crawled up out of the the chair, and I thought I'd tell you that, but it works really good for me. A good discussion. I like a good discussion on YouTube, and that's what'll put me to sleep every time.
Cool. Well, that was a great way to finish out Triple T number 96. FOMO before we go into the triple dig. I am so honored to have you guys on this platform joining me, and all of your information and input and ahas and epiphanies. And for those of you on YouTube Live, love you, Mom. And for those of you that are watching the recordings, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Again, as always, being we're on YouTube, please spread the word, share these with anybody that might get something out of them. Click the subscribe and ring the bell, and please leave comments and all the above. And this is also the time of night where I get to, once again, thank you so much for your time, because it's the one thing that I cannot produce and give back to you. So for you to invest your very precious commodity on this platform to help everybody out means so much to me. Thank you so much. Please take care of yourself. Have an awesome week. Next week, I am not sure how it's going to go, because I will actually be on the road coming back home from Tucson, Arizona. So I may be on my phone, and I may have somebody hosting for me, because if you've ever driven from Tucson towards Texas, there are some areas where there's a whole lot of country and not a lot of reception. So we'll keep that as an adventure. But either way, I hope to either see you guys on my phone or on the recording. You guys take care. Go out, have an awesome week. Be nice to each other, and love you.
Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, TJ.